on a cattle farm in Western Australia's southwest. A quiet revolution is underway. Inside this shed next to a large dam, Colin Stonehouse's vision to solve a decades-long community problem is taking shape.
And we've got our 3 phases of the power grid here that we're measuring, and you can see one of those phases has been impacted here where perhaps a tree or something has fallen across a power line, and then in a very, very quick period of time the system has tripped. Once our system is up and running, we'll be able to provide standby power and continue to supply the power to the town through that outage.
It's a power loss scenario that has regularly plagued the tiny farming, tourism and retirement town of Walpole for decades. The 450 residents rely on a long, single skinny power line that runs through forests and farms, branching off to service numerous small communities and properties along the way.
This is the main power line from Albany to Walpole. Albany is in this direction and it's 115 kilometres away. It goes through some wonderful carry forest, but obviously it's very difficult terrain to run power lines through. And then it runs through in this direction towards the town of Walpole, which is another 14 kilometres away.
But after 16 years of living with the frequent brownouts, power surges and total power blackouts, sometimes lasting for days, the power systems engineer decided to draw on his long experience with remote mine site power systems to build an affordable solution to an expensive problem.
We can see firsthand that when you're at the edge of the grid or a weak part of the power grid, you are disadvantaged with power supply reliability. It affects your communications, it affects the ability to phone for an ambulance, it affects the ability to maintain power for schools and hospitals and shops and all sorts of things. So it's a massive impact.
For Colin, the renewable energy solutions of wind and solar farms have limitations. Intermittent supply, visually and audibly controversial, and too expensive to build for Walpole's small population.
In time, roughly a quarter of our energy is going to have to be stored so that it's available when it's needed, because the wind and solar isn't there all the time. I think roughly half of wind and solar can get used when it's generated, and maybe another quarter can be managed through household batteries and smart grids and things like that. But there's always going to be a need to store energy for long periods of time for industry, for commerce, for residential users that don't have their own batteries, and for those times when the wind and solar are not there.
But the concept and execution of building a short-term battery and long-duration energy storage power station to provide instant electricity when the grid fails is complex and fraught with risk for the developer. It's almost the price of being an innovator, isn't it? You're the first in lots of ways, and that comes at a cost, doesn't it?
Oh, there's no question. I mean, we're great believers in what it is that we're doing here. We think the benefit to the community, the benefit to the power grid is compelling, but it does mean that we have to take a great deal of risk at this early stage. They're considerable risks. It's taken a lot of personal time and effort and investment to get to this stage.
So how will it work?
We store energy by taking it out of the grid when it's in surplus, and we pump it back into the grid when the grid needs it.
Simple enough. A large rechargeable battery and the water in the dams running through a turbine, which can power the town for a day and a half.
So we have a lower dam here, and then we have an upper dam, which is at the top of a hill. We pump water from the lower dam to the upper dam through a pump, and just simply from one dam to the other. And that takes energy to do that. So we take that electricity either from solar power or from surplus power in the grid. This pump, we can then operate that in reverse as a generator or a turbine. And in doing that, we operate for energy storage in the same way that a battery operates, where we can take that energy, store it in water, and then recover it out of the water and pump it back into the grid. So this is why it's called a hybrid, like a hybrid car. It's the battery that takes up all the fluctuations, and we use the pump turbine for the bulk energy storage. But this can run for 20 hours. Now, if there is an outage and the grid supply trips at, say, some point along here, then we can take up that supply to the town, and then we continue to supply the town like an uninterruptible power supply that you might have on your computer at home.
Crucially, Colin Stonehouse's system appealed to the state's main energy network, responsible for delivering power to Walpole.
When Colin first came to us, he had a really good solution for the system, I think, and it was a bit bigger than what we ended up going with, but he was willing to collaborate.
Brenton Laws was assigned to work with Colin Stonehouse to integrate his power system with the grid.
Rural reliability was becoming more and more of a challenge, and I'm not sure if that's to do with climate change, but we definitely felt the pressure at Western Power of poor performing towns, and it's really ideal because it's to increase the duration, which is what you want for reliability. You just have to build a bigger dam.
So is it unique as a project?
Yeah, we believe so. We did quite a bit of research on this to look globally. We couldn't find anything quite like it.
The batteries and the whole solar aspect of our operation is here.
For the community, the power solution can't come soon enough.
These are the batteries. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 batteries here.
In Walpole, Cherie Smith manages the Community Resource Centre, which invested in solar and batteries to keep the lights on when the power goes down.
If you ever go to our tip, you'll find that there's fridges, freezers, computers just piled high because these brownouts damage all electrical items.
So when Colin Stonehouse appeared on the scene, what was the initial reaction in the town?
We are so excited about it. Very positive reaction. It's like finally somebody's listening to us and they've come up with a solution, and it sounds feasible and possible and simple.
Turn the fuel on.
People live in Walpole for the quiet life, but one of the first things newcomers soon buy is a generator. When the power goes down, the peaceful serenity is soon drowned out.
You've either got to have lots of torches and candles, or you've got to have a generator.
Greg and Robin Christian moved to Walpole from the city looking for a peaceful retirement.
In one day, on the 18th of August, we've got went out 3 times in one day.
Often it's been a bit too quiet.
These are all the blackout notifications we got from Western Power. So that's 17 actual blackouts in total.
They had their new home especially wired with a separate circuit to run a genset, often for long periods.
Well, you just have to keep the fridge and freezers shut, basically try not to use them if it's an extended period of time, but having the generator is a big part of that, so that it maintains the coldness.
Then another one from, on the same day, 1:15 p.m. to 4:45 p.m. the next day.
Jenny Wilcox has kept a diary documenting the hundreds of power failures over the past 25 years. She called a public meeting in 2003 and invited Western Power to come up with some answers. There's been other meetings since. Here we are, 22 years later. What's changed?
Nothing really.
For Colin Stonehouse, it has been a complex project, complicated by the weather, the COVID pandemic, finding skilled staff, and crucially, a lack of support from the federal agencies who have funds to assist fledgling green energy projects, but showed little interest in his.
We've had great support from Western Power and for the WA state government, but I do have to say we've had disastrous interaction with federal government programs like the R&D rebate and ARENA, and they've caused us great expense and delays. We have a lot of interest from investors, who like what we're doing, but what we're doing is perhaps a bit early in the process for them, and they want to see this project up and running before they came on board. So that's meant that to build this project, my wife and I, we've had to come up with a lot of money on our own and mortgage our own home and farm to do that too.
I would have to say the authorities should be ashamed of themselves, really, for having allowed it to be dragged out to this degree when it's been a sound idea that Mr Stonehouse took to the government. Wouldn't it be so much better to finish it off and reap the rewards of all the accolades and put it on show that it's a workable model that could be replicated in other towns, and other people in their other communities wouldn't have to go through the angst that we have to.
The project is now deep into the commissioning phase with Western Power. Colin has approval to operate the system with the grid. Within weeks, the physical proving up of the concept will begin.
Whilst it's solving a problem today, that wasn't what was in my mind. I wanted this to solve a problem that exists in 20 years' time or in 30 years' time, because there's no point building something that becomes superseded or redundant in 5, 10 or 15 years. Just like a pumped hydro facility that was developed in 1880 is still operating, I expect this to be operating in 100 years' time and many more like it.